Hello everyone, welcome back to Two Crows. The other day we made these delicious charro beans, and after we made them we thought some cornbread would go perfect with these. So today we're making cornbread. We're actually making a jalapeno jack cornbread. Now I'm going to preface this video by saying I don't like cornbread, but I like my cornbread. And by my cornbread I mean a recipe that I found online off of Serious Eats. All the cornbread recipes that I've tried in the past and have eaten other people's cornbread, it's just it's always too dry. It's not moist enough. It's dense. It's flavorless. But this one meets checks off all the marks to good cornbread. All right, the first thing you're going to want to do is get your oven preheated, or preheat the oven to 425 degrees. You're going to preheat it with your cast iron skillet in it, because you want that skillet nice and hot when you pour the batter in. Let's get this thing mixed up. All right, to start off with, I've already pre-measured all my dry ingredients here. We've got 1 cup of yellow cornmeal, 1 cup of all-purpose flour, half a cup of sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of a kosher salt, and a ½ teaspoon of baking soda. Now, you may hear different numbers for me whenever I'm calling a recipe. There's what's actually in the recipe itself and things that I've slightly modified it to make it, well, better. So I've got all of those dry ingredients pre-measured there. I already got those whisked together. Now we want to whisk together all of our wet ingredients. Here we have got 3/4 cup of sour cream and a ½ cup of buttermilk. Pour together. Hold on, just tight for just a second. All right, there we go. Like I said, 3/4 cup of sour cream and a ½ cup of buttermilk. We've got 2 large eggs. I like to crack those on the countertop so you don't possibly get any eggshell fragments in your mixture itself. We're going to add 3 tablespoons of melted butter and 2 tablespoons of canola oil. We're just going to whisk all of these together. Now I'm sure there's something magical that happens between buttermilk and baking powder or baking soda or something. I just can't remember exactly what that magic stuff is. Most flavorful cornbread I've ever had. Okay, we're going to whisk those well together. And we're going to combine all of that with our dry ingredients. I'm going to get all those little last bit of that out of there. And we're just going to mix all this together. Now all the ingredients I've shown so far, these are measured out exactly as shown in the recipe itself. It's the addition of the chopped jalapeños that I make changes to, as well as the pepper jack cheese that goes into it. Whisk all that together until everything is well mixed. You're going to stir in your chopped jalapeno. Now on this one, the recipe calls for a half cup of jalapeno. I actually use about 3/4 cup, which is roughly about 3 large jalapenos. I found that it adds just a little bit of more heat and a whole lot more flavor to the cornbread itself. Mix all that in really well. And our oven should be just about preheated, as well as that cast iron skillet. Got a couple more minutes to go on that. And then the recipe calls for 6 ounces of shredded pepper jack cheese. I use 8 ounces, and I shredded this by hand. I didn't buy the pre-shredded. I just bought the block and shredded that. But it seems to have, the melting seems to melt nicer shredding it by hand. We can get those stirred up really well. Okay, and you're gonna have a real thick, just batter to this. And what we're going to do when we take that skillet out of the oven, once it's preheated to the 425, we're going to put about a tablespoon and a half of butter in it. And that butter, along with that hot skillet, is going to form this delicious, slightly crunchy crust to it while it bakes. All right, our oven is just about finished preheating. We're about 405 degrees. You know, you want to get that up to that 425, get that cast iron skillet just blazing hot. You know, I've been a little bit reluctant to make a video for this cornbread. It's sort of one of those things that numerous people have often said, well, give me your cornbread recipe. Like, no, I don't think so. You can enjoy your cornbread when you come over to my place to eat, but I've been always reluctant about giving it up. But here we are. I decided to go ahead and cave in, and since I was making it, I decided to go ahead and get this on video. And of course, I'll get the recipe and all the details and everything in the description below. And if you like this content, go ahead and hit that like button. Also hit the notifications to get a notification for when we receive or when we post new videos, as well as hit the subscribe button. That'll certainly help get this video out there into the YouTube algorithm, whatever that might be, and get the video out and our channel out to more viewers. So we certainly appreciate it. It's finally preheated. Now, you know, this cast iron skillet is going to be hot and very, very heavy, and certainly much heavier once we get that batter in there. So of course you'll want to be careful with this. And what we want to do is add 1 tablespoon of butter to the skillet itself. And then very carefully, we're just going to want to swirl that butter around this hot skillet. Like I said, this butter and this hot skillet is going to give the cornbread a delicious, amazing crust to the top of it when we pull this out. So we're just going to take our batter, we're just going to pop that right there in the center. Beautiful. Then we're going to transfer this back to our oven. transfer that back to the oven, and that's going to bake at the 425 degrees for about 20 minutes, or until a skewer or toothpick or something inserted into the center comes out clean. Okay, it's been our 20 minutes. Our timer has gone off, so we're going to remove this from the oven, and what we're going to do is we're going to let this cool in the pan itself for about 5 minutes. And then after the 5 minutes, we're going to turn this out onto a wire rack and let it cool for about another 10 minutes. We'll be back here in just a second. You can take a look at that beautiful golden crust that it leaves behind. Okay, now it's been about 5 minutes cooling in the pan itself. Now here's always the tricky part. Turning it out of this hot, heavy cast iron skillet onto, in this case, I'm going to transfer this to this wire rack one-handed. So this might be a circus, or it might come out beautifully. So you see that beautiful golden crust, just real slightly crunchy, that that hot iron skillet with the melted butter in it just before you pour it in. Absolutely delicious. So what we're going to do is, after it's cooled in the pan for about 5 minutes, we're just going to transfer this to a wire rack, and we're going to let it cool for about another 10 minutes on the wire rack itself, just to do its magic cooling thing. Anyway, back in a second. All right, it's been cooling on the wire rack for about 10 minutes or so. Someone's getting impatient, so I'm going to go ahead and slice into this.
It's me. I'm going to be the taste tester. See if it's the quality's any good on it.
Don't let him fool you. He has had this many times, and he's been hounding me to make it. So we got a nice thick slice of cornbread. You can see it's got big old cornbread. Got big slice chunks of that jalapeno in there. It's got that pepper jack cheese melted in. Absolutely delicious.
And I bet it isn't going to be any good.
Just get a big old slab of butter on that thing. And
now I do think, I know he put a generous amount of butter on it, but I do think that it could probably use a little more. But let's see if it's any good. Get back on there, butter. Off the charts, man.
Now, if you make this and you really like it, you can go ahead and just call it your cornbread recipe, and you don't have to share the recipe. Because I've been reluctant to forever, and people have hounded me forever about getting this recipe. Like I said, I call it my recipe, but I found it on Serious Eats. Just some amazing stuff over there. And this is just one of many, many that I found over there that are just absolutely delicious.
This is the best cornbread I've ever eaten. And, you know, my grandmother's a pretty good cook, but this is the best I've ever eaten.
Even Darren's mother said it's the best cornbread she's ever had. And, you know, as a native Texan and native Southerner, she's had, you know, decades of eating cornbread. Didn't actually have the best cornbread until mine came along. Anyway, so if you like this video, give it a like, hit that notification bell, and subscribe. We'll catch you the next go around. Okay, I'm caving in, and I didn't want him to enjoy all of it, so I'm gonna have to big old sample myself. Like I said, the cornbread itself is real light, is real sort of cake-like. That crispy crust that the hot skillet and the butter makes with that hot melted butter. Pepper jack cheese, jalapenos, the whole thing. It's amazing. It's delicious, absolutely delicious. There may be no room for any of those charred beans tonight. We may have to save those again. Take care.